What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live composing show. I'm your host, Stephen Malin. I'm so glad you're here joining us today. Now, today we're going to be writing some live music while we do a showcase and a review of two new products from Impact Soundworks. They're one of my favorite sample instrument companies because they're always doing stuff that's really different and unique. Specifically in the video game space with things like Super Audio Cart, which you guys know I've talked about quite a bit. And then on the other side with a lot of ethnic instruments, which are two of my favorite types of instruments, not only to play, but to make as well. So I'm really excited today because we're gonna be diving into two new products from them. The first is the Ventus Native American Flutes, which is part of their Ventus series. A lot of really cool flutes in there we're going to talk about today. And then on the other side, we're going to be talking about the Javanese Gamelan. So that's like an Indonesian percussion ensemble, which is distinctly Indonesian, distinctly Eastern. It's like a whole tone type scale that it just is instantly takes you to that place. So these are two sounds that if you don't have in your library in your arsenal, it might be a little bit more challenging to try to get that Native American sound or that Indonesian sound without these specific instruments. So this is one of those times where a real world sound, a real world instrument from a specific country can really help you get that specific sound. So right off the top, before we jump into the review, I want to welcome you guys by saying that exclusively to this video here today, Impact Soundworks has actually given us a 15% exclusive discount on all of their products, but specifically today we're talking about the Native American flutes and then the Javanese Gamelan. So you can use SMELIN 15, Smelin 15, as a coupon code and get 15% off your order today. And links are in the description. And those are affiliate links if you want to support my business directly. I really appreciate that. So with all that out of the way, let's take a look at what these two libraries look like and then sound like. And of course, we'll write some live music. So we're going to have a lot of fun here today. And welcome Chance. He had a live stream last night. He was doing some Nier Automata. Atama, how I don't even know how to say that. It's a game he's been telling me to play for a long time, but I've yet to do it. So shame on me. But over here, let's pop over to these two libraries from Impact Soundworks. Really love these guys. They're always doing really cool stuff. So the Ventus Native American Flutes, it is three different flutes. We have basically a soprano flute, an alto flute, and a tenor flute. So it's three different patches combined together. We'll take a look at these in depth, but you'll notice how they have a lot of really cool things on the GUI here. Most notably, they have the flutter tongue, which I haven't seen on any solo instruments before. It's a really cool technique that allows you to basically do a tremolo, but it's actually recorded by the player. So these are really cool. And then down here, another really cool knob here is the mono versus polyphonic. So that means either one voice, that's legato, or polyphonic means you can play a bunch of notes at once at the same time. They also have a fading setting, which is really important for how quickly your legato speed is. And then all these little input type things like sample offset, dynamic filtering, pedal sustain, you can actually change what the pedal does. So they've really thought of everything. And then on the second tab is a mixer. So it basically allows you to use every single one of the built-in contact effects directly in that instrument. So that's a really cool function to have if you want to create your own kind of alien sounds out of these natural sound instruments. And then, as well as having the solo patches themselves, we also have phrases. So each of these three instruments also has a phrase patch where you can actually see the waveform here. You can do all sorts of stuff here, like hitting a reverse button, hitting the infinity loop button, playing around with the ADSR settings, really everything you'd want to manipulate a waveform live within the patch itself. So all three of these allow you to do ARPs and runs, effects, shorts, mediums, and longs. So they've really gone to a painstaking amount of detail to give you some of the coolest flutes you've ever heard. So this is going to be a ton of fun today. And of course, on their website, you can listen to different audio demos, listen to some video walkthroughs, and all that good stuff. Let's also take a look at the Javanese Gamelan, which is so cool. This is something that, I mean, if you're going to write Eastern music, you got to have this. Very similar interface. Let's pop over to the mixer, which is what we talked about before, where you can throw on any number of Contact effects on there to your heart's content and play around with those very easily, which is really cool. But also, because this is a multi-patch, the gamelan, what that means is all of these instruments are actually playing at the same time. It's just one patch, but at any point you can go to any one of these and you can tweak any of those specific effects. And we're going to definitely play around with this today. This is so cool. They have a scale under the performance tab. You can actually choose what scale you want to play in, and it locks all the MIDI information into that. So this is one of the easiest ways I've ever seen to actually play in that Eastern sound. So that's going to be really fun to play with. And on top of that, they also have all of the different solo instruments, which we'll definitely pop into as well. So at any point, you can actually open up any one of those instruments, such as the bonang, and tweak it to your heart's content and play just that one. So we're going to have so much fun here today as we do this, because at the end of the day, I think Ruben right there just said it, like control. These instruments have so much control, and you can really make them what you want. So as a Contact developer myself with Simple Samples Audio, my number one mantra, if you will, is quality, but it's also simplicity. And I think Impact Soundworks is doing that really well, and they've been doing it for a while. So any of their plugins you're going to open up, and it's going to be exactly what you want it to be, but there's also that but, that you can tweak them as much as you want to make them sound like something different. But at least it gets you that starting point, in this case, a gamelan or the Native American flutes. So let's actually go into the libraries themselves. I'm over here in Cubase today. And real quick before we jump in, I want to say, hey, what's up to Peter Jones? We got Ruben and a bunch of others here. If you're here, let us know you're here. Love when you hop in the live chat and say, hey, because it's fun to chat with you guys. So what we have here, let's see if we can see these titles. First one is the Pocket Cedar. So let's pop through the 3 instruments for the Native American flutes, because these are really cool. And they're so large. These are using the larger interface of Contact. These are Contact 5 instruments, by the way. So these are all loaded in 5. You can also load them in 6. What I'm going to do is take off my face for a moment so that we can see the full extent of this interface. And you can always grab your Contact browser and make it smaller or bigger as you need. And of course, if you're familiar with the interface itself of Contact, you can remove some of these things like the browser. That might help make some space, or you can always click this little window button to lock it down to the max size without any extra distractions. So I'll put that right there for now, so we can avoid live chat on the side. And hey, what's up? We have Jordan from Toronto, and Bedros says they tried their Duduk, and it's very cool. Yeah, I think it's really good stuff. So you'll notice some of the features we talked about before that I think are really neat. So if I just start playing, I have to get my MIDI controller in the right octave. This is the Pocket Cedar. This is basically the soprano flute, if you will. There we go. Now we can see everything. There's a lot on the screen, so I'm going to try to make it visible for you guys. So there we go. You'll also notice down here there's a bunch of key switches that help us navigate. At any point, you can just click on the knob or the little toggle, and you can do exactly what the key switches do, but if you prefer key switches, they're there for you. So you notice as I just start playing, a few key features here is we have the mod wheel, which controls, you'll see both sliders moving there. It's the dynamics and the vibrato, which I think is very clever. So you'll notice if I just play at the very bottom, it's quiet, but it's also the vibrato's down. So I can go up. So the second thing you'll notice is it has a natural legato that when you play soft at a very low velocity on note number 2, it's going to slide or portamento into the second note. It's so intuitive. So what I would do naturally, I'm not a huge fan of the linking of these two. So at any point, you can remove the MIDI automation if that's your deal. I just don't love that. So now you see how it's just the vibrato. I'm much more inclined to actually keep something in between. And of course, if you have a MIDI controller like I do, you can actually take any of your faders at top if you really want to get fancy here. And I can maybe just leave the mod wheel as vibrato, but I can also right click and learn the MIDI information for dynamics. And perhaps that is something that is more interesting. And that way we can kind of slide it. Yeah, pick a different one. Something like that. But you can, play around with multiple sliders. But yeah, that's a pretty cool thing there. So let me go back before I ruin my entire GUI here. There we go. They're back to being toggled as intended. Haha, Nathan just mentioned the Mandalorian. I'll get to that because the bass flute actually sounds identical to the recorder that was used for the Mandalorian. Right? Cool. And at any point, you can turn off the effects over here. Might sound a bit weird. But you can always go into the articulation setup over here, which is the TACT, the T-A-C-T. I don't love using menus like this because then it just kind of gets complicated. But it's there if you want to toggle all of your different key switches to whatever note you want. So the red keys here on the interface, you can actually change all of them to whatever key you want on the keyboard. So if you're really into key switching, that's going to be a really cool menu for you to play through. And kind of pick the best way to toggle all the different articulations. And the final little thing here is they have an ornaments chants, which is really neat if you want more randomized, humanized music. So let me turn my reverb back on. And you'll notice here that we could actually create our own little bar graph here. And now what it's saying is that there's different amounts of probability. You can do it for the attacks and the releases and an actual chance 0 through 100%. So it's a wheel that decides how often ornaments will actually kind of sneak into my notes, which is pretty cool. So again, if I play with 0% and just play that little phrase, and then maybe increase it. See, did you hear that one? It just did like a little bend, which you can toggle within this little menu here, the input, the bend and range. You can change how much it's going to scoop. So that was pretty extreme. That was like a fifth. So I might make it more like a 2 semitones, which is a whole step. Something like that. So if you've played with flutes before with MIDI, then you'll know that it can sound very fake really fast because a real flute player is going to add little ornamentations and little glissandos and portamentos, and this is what it's trying to help you do, is make something that is fake on a keyboard sound like a real human, and I think they've done a really great job at programming that. So they also have these little high velocities if you really smash it at the highest velocity. Like I have to really smash my keyboard. Occasionally you'll hear that in there where it's like a little attack. Hear that? So it's pretty cool, which definitely is more Native American than anything that's perfect and clinical, right? You want something that's a little bit more, I don't want to say random, but it has a little bit more musical character to it. Now that's also like 100% chance, so you probably would want to do something that's a little bit more subtle with lesser percentage and less attacks on there. But personally, I'm just a fan of the legato sound. I think it's quite pretty. So let's move on. Let's go to the next one. So that's the pocket cedar, that's the soprano. Next, we have the red tail hawk. So exactly the same interface here. And we'll also talk about the performance window with this one. So The red tail hawk is the next one down. It's your alto flute, if you will. I think it's gorgeous. So if you want to take it to the next level here in the performance tab, then you can actually add additional voices over here by turning this on, the little bubble, which I imagine you'd have to turn the poly on to actually use it. That's really cool. That's really cool because you can actually choose. It's kind of like a synthesizer. You can choose different voices that are tuned to different intervals, and so just like that, it's going to actually follow it. So those are all single notes. And it's also locked to a scale over here, which is super cool. So that you have to have a scale lock if you want the harmony. And over here, you can make literally any scale ever, which I think is super cool. So if you really want to lean heavy into this style, don't pick a C major scale. Come on, people. Maybe not even a mode, which is more like Gregorian or more ancient world music. I would pick something that's actually Eastern. So probably like a Japanese scale or a Greek scale or Hirayoshi. So let's try a Hirayoshi. So now what it does is it actually forces, this is so cool. I got to figure out how they program this because this is kind of mind blowing to me, that they've actually forced all of the pitches of each of the samples and they've actually stretched them to only play notes that are in that scale. So how cool is that? And you can see it's going to change every time you choose a new scale in the MIDI regions. So this is a really kind of dummy-proof way if you're not really smart with music theory. I'm kind of smart with music theory, but honestly, I don't know all those Eastern scales. I don't. And so this is a really easy way for me to just click that and it locks the notes in. So here we go. Let's see what it sounds like. And yeah, whoever said that, Nathan just said the plus 2 octaves is probably out of range. You're probably right. Let's do a fourth. Cool. So the reason it's not playing many different notes is because it's locking me into that scale and locking me into those voicings. So that's why it's like, why is nothing happening? So you could definitely play around with that. That's really neat to me. And then here's the part I really want to lean into is the micro tuning. So here you can actually choose all these different versions of tuning because in normal tuning, it's just tempered, well-tempered tuning as we know it in the Western world where everything is a perfect amount of semitones between keys. But micro-tuning can really get you into some interesting territory. So if our root is C and we micro-tune, let's pick on, I don't know, something like this. Things are going to be a little bit sharp, a little bit flat. In this specific case, you can see how they're all sharp, only those 5 specific pitches. Or you might pick on something like this, where they're literal microtones. So I don't know if my ear can even hear that difference, but you could obviously make them way more extreme. You can hear it there. That's not a perfect second anymore. It's like, whoa. So if you want to lean into that, you can, and it might give you some really cool results that are truly microtonal because you're defining what each interval is at that point. So you might have to do some math or just use your ears. I don't know. But that's the idea there. Let me turn that off. Go back to the main interface here. And there we go. That's the red tail hawk. So let's go to the third one for today. It's the Contra bass. This is my favorite. This is my favorite, and you'll hear why. You hear it? So just for fun, let me actually go over to my mixer here, and let's pop on a stereo delay. It's just basically a recorder. It's a wooden recorder that we're working with here. So here's a delay. Let's just put on maybe an eighth note. I think it's super cool. So there you go. There's some Mandalorian for you today. Of course, you could play with that all day, but the same concept, same interface with all of these. I just think it's the most interesting because it's a low flute. You don't hear a lot of bass flute. I should also mention that one of the final, these little purple keys at the end of each instrument is actually breaths. You can hear them. They're round robin breaths. So at any point you want to make your music sound more realistic, play a phrase and maybe practice yourself breathing like this. Then I would breathe in real life. But if you want to simulate that, let's have our B ready up here. That way I can fake breathe. I can MIDI breathe in between like this. So there you go. I think that's super cool. And that's a really good way to make MIDI sound more human. Isn't that what we're trying to do? Not always, but you know, that's how we have the cool effects. But if you're trying to make MIDI sound realistic, then these are some of the tricks. It's to take spaces, add breaths, literal breaths that are recorded by the musicians, and to play around with these things and have fun with it, you know? So cool. So those are the 3 Ventus flutes. And then they also gave us a separate phrase patch for each. So we have a phrase patch for cedar, red tail hawk, and the Contra bass. And these are super useful. My personal opinion, does not have to be your opinion, I like to write music from an individual note basis. However, there are times where you just need a sample. You need an ARP run or an effect or whatever, just little phrases that you can kind of add on top of something to give it that humanity, because you can't go out and record this person, right? So let me just give a quick little demo of some of these. I mean, there's a ton of these. So you can see down here, the blue key switches down here. Well, these are the instruments themselves. And then the red key switches just change to each of the appropriate categories. So again, you have all these things. And check this out, there's a transpose wheel. So if that's not the key you want, you can actually go up or down. Isn't that cool? Yeah, there's no MIDI for these phrases, Nathan. But that would be a pain in the butt. I don't even know if that's possible to ever recreate these sounds with MIDI. So I as a developer, I can firmly say that that's not a very realistic expectation of anyone to provide. Because even if they do, it's just not going to be what you want. If anything, you should ask for sheet music of these performances versus But I bet you that these are literally just, they probably just told the musician, all right, improv in the key of A minor or whatever, and then they just riffed. To me, that's more musical anyway than trying to perfectly read sheet music of all these glisses and weird effects. So anyway, there's that, my little spiel on that. So let's move on. Let's hear some effects. Cool. That stuff's super useful. Very Native American. All these little calls. They have shorts as well. That's cool. We have medium. So these are like melodic phrases. And then the long phrases, which are like 4 bars plus. So this stuff can just soar on top of any music you're writing. So I think that's really, really nice. And the phrases are provided for all 3 of the instruments. So definitely dive into those. Let's go over to the gamelan and let's check this thing out. First thing I'll check out is actually the solos, because every single instrument in here has its own solo. And I think it would serve us well to look at the folder. I want to show you where it's at. Let me pull it up real quick. All right, just so you can see what we're looking at and what we're working with here. So in the folder for the Javanese Gamelan, we have the full patch, which we'll do in a sec. And then in the solos, we have all of the individual instruments by themselves. So it's a bunch of names I can't pronounce, but they're all Indonesian, and they're all part of a traditional Javanese gamelan. So this particular one today, this is the bonang. And you can choose which scale you're in. So the equal temperament is what we know. It's this Western scale where everything is perfectly tuned. You can make chords. So that's gonna be perfect for anyone trying to do cinematic music or anyone trying to do Western scale music, which is probably the bulk of what we do. But if you really want to lean into the authentic sound of the gamelan, then you want to choose one of these other 2 scales, the pelog or the cilindro. So the pelog sounds like this. Ooh. You can still do chords, but they're not going to sound like we're used to. Because in that culture, in that society, they don't play triads like an A minor. Right? Doesn't that sound like a major chord? But I'm playing. Isn't that weird? It's because the tuning is different. It's higher pitches, lower pitches. So instead, what you're going to find in these other tunings is probably more like a whole tone scale. Like this. But even then it's off. Or you're going to find the pentatonic scale. Let me find a good example. Isn't that cool? So you're going to get these really cool, like, metallic tunes. So to me, that is what a gamelan sounds like. It almost has this creepy vibe, like a religious vibe. Which I love. And you're really not going to get that sound anywhere else except from the real instruments themselves. And then let's also try the cilindro. You notice how a bunch of keys just went missing? What this always reminds me of is Secret of Mana and Chrono Trigger, 2 Japanese RPGs that are historic, right, from Square Enix, and they really leaned into that sound. This is a true pentatonic because there's only 5 notes, C, D, E, G, A, but they're tuned differently. But I think my favorite is the Paylog because it's creepy. Because you get a lot of microtones. That's so cool. I love it. And that's it. I mean, that's the whole patch. And of course, you can make your own effects by adding like the attack, by making that less. You can turn it into a pad. Like this. I can actually make a real pad. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to actually get the authentic sound of it. So instead of dealing with the solos and the phrases, I want to use what's intended here today. So let's open the gamelan. Let's hit the full patch where everything here is combined and we can mix them to our heart's content and do different scales. Instead of doing that, I would much rather That's so cool to me. And it's a very simple patch. There's not a lot to do with this except to maybe change individual parameters of each instrument. But I like the whole ensemble. It's so magical because it just forces you into this. Now, of course, this scale lock in that moment was stuck to a whole tone, but you can change it to anything ever. So again, I'm going to really push you guys. Do something like a pentatonic scale or a mode or Japanese or Hiroyoshi or any of these Eastern type scales. Don't just do major and minor. It's just, that's not what this is for. So really lean into that. I think you're going to have a lot more fun than kind of what's out of the box right off the bat. Let's try a mid-Eastern scale. Here it is. So weird. That sounds so weird. So that's not my flavor at all. To me, I'm going to probably lean into the pentatonic, maybe minor pentatonic. To me, this style of a minor pentatonic gamelan, to me, reminds me of Ori and the Blind Forest, or Ori and the Will of the Wisps. It's that Gareth Coker orchestra meets Eastern. To me, it's like this. They're more like bells. So here's the actual pentatonic lock. Something like that. And that's going to force me to lean into that style because it's literally locked. So let's have some fun here today. Let's actually write some music. The only real agenda here is let's make something pretty. Let's make something that really utilizes that Eastern sound of the gamelan. But for my purposes, I write a ton of game music, which really leans into the Western orchestral style. But I want to try to blend these worlds together in a way that's very natural to my sound and my style, because I think that's the fun of any live stream like this, is to see how someone really uses it, not just hypothetically. We can play with features all day, but that to me is the fun of these streams. So let's do it. Let's jump in. I'd love to hear your feedback as we go. And just as a reminder, if you want to pick up either or both of these libraries today, check out the link in the description below. It's an affiliate link that does support my channel here, and I appreciate your support. And there's a 15% discount off any of the products from Impact Soundworks. So do check that out. Use the code SMELIN15, SMELIN 15. Hope that serves you guys well. I love the guys over at Impact Soundworks, and I love working and getting to showcase their stuff. I think it's really special. So let's have some fun writing some music. So I'm going to start with the gamelan here today. Ooh, I like that a lot. So let's find a nice 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Almost like a Final Fantasy VII vibe. You know, the remake. I think that's a good example of what I might be going for here today. It's more like a 6/4 time. Like the Midgar feeling. Which I think has a lot of these Eastern influences too. So maybe a quicker tempo. No. Of 100. No. Ooh. Trying different tempos. Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be really nice. So I settled on 84. Down here you can see tempo is 84, 6/4 time signature. I like to always give myself 1 bar of free space and to create a markers track with any DAW I'm using, just to keep track of everything, set some shortcuts. So as we go here, I'm just going to add markers. So this is going to be the start point. Let's write some music. Here we go. This is going to be gorgeous. 1 bar free. Here we go. The keys are in different spots, so it's not doing what I thought it would do, but I still like it. So let me quantize those real quick. Those are the notes I really want, which is a Phrygian mode. You see how I had to go an extra half step to get the actual interval I wanted? Isn't that wild? Oh, but it feels like an authentic gamelan. Yeah. Now for my taste, let me actually go into the console here and see what's going on with the effects. I'm guessing that's just this. I don't want to mess too much with the console, but what I could do is go over here to the master and just put a reverb on it. But I'm more interested in adding my own reverb because that's what I would do in real life. So let's do exactly what I would do in real life. Let's go over to here. Let's add a 2C Aether, my favorite hall reverb, among others. Hall 2 is typically my favorite, somewhere around 20% mix. Should liven this up a little bit. It's pretty. Let me turn it down a little bit so it's not so harsh. And let's see what we can do with this Contra bass. I'm pretty sure it's locked into a scale somewhere. Let's rescue it. Okay, cool. It's not. We're good. Let's also see what this is all about, the split point legato. I'm not sure what that means. Might have to read up on that, what that term means. But for now, to me, to make it feel a bit more legato, I'd like to put that same reverb on it over here in my mixer. Oh, I love those slurs. Those are really gorgeous. Good programming. Very good programming of legato. Wow. Let's do it. I have to figure out what the heck scale this is in now. No, 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 no. I'm in B flat minor. Go figure. Yeah, I like that. Very earthy. Now, I think I want to do some kind of intro here. Probably come in here. A little bit slower tempo would be nice. I'm thinking right here in bar 4, or bar 5 rather. This is where the bass flute comes in. Oh, I started in the wrong measure. That's why I didn't end right. That's the right idea, though. So what I'm battling right now, it's not a bad thing, but I'm really trying to figure out over here the way to use the mod wheel and velocity. So that's what I'm really fighting here. And it's because like we talked about before, the vibrato and, let me show you. The vibrato and the dynamics are linked. It's not a bad thing. It just means that they're both going to go up and down. So that's what I'm battling. But I found somewhere around like the 20% mark, right about there, is where I can play loud enough without accessing the vibrato patch like this. If I go any higher. Oh, good. I found it. It's exactly 50%. I'm reading the dynamic info, and it says exactly 50% is where the vibrato accesses. So that's what I'm trying to feel. I don't want to program it. I want to feel it and get it right musically. So let's go back. See if we can get it. Cool. I like it. Here's what I need. I need more bass. So for me, that actually means just more reverb. There it is, my diminished seventh chord. That's the direction I'm headed. Just might take a couple tries. That's okay. I don't want to skip past the musicality, because that's really what matters here. I ended with a little pitch bend at the end, and I feel like this little phrase in the gamelan can come back once it starts to bend like this. Might also benefit, let's go over to the mixer again, might benefit from having a little bit less reverb itself. Let's maybe more back to the 20% range. And then adding a Valhalla shimmer on the back end to give it the space I'm really desiring after the sound has happened. And we can do that with a big stereo, probably a mix of like 30 with the 50% size. Let's feel that one out, because that's going to have a completely different effect over here when we play that part. There it is. I like this a lot, but I want to keep it in that calm space. I also feel like this, I don't want to overdo it with the effects. I still want it to feel real. I'm wondering if this is the wrong reverb. Let's play around with it a little bit. I want it to feel a bit softer. A little bit harsh. Let's do that first with an EQ. Again, I don't want to make the sound anything less than it's supposed to be, but I just think it needs a little bit of that 10K-ish range removed, so it's not so harsh. Still bell-like, like this. There it is. I like it. That's really pretty. But it also kind of has this. What we need is probably some strings or something in the background to make it more orchestral, but then Did someone say Dudebek? Why, yes, someone did say Dudebek. Let's do it. I'll capture it with this mic I'm talking into. And she'll do, it's a dynamic mic, so it'll record just that low thud, and then I'll do a high thud as well. The alternative is to get two mics, but that's a little bit too cumbersome at the moment. So let's do doon 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 Dudebek doon 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 Dudebek. So Dudebek bottom, and then we'll make a duplicate so we can do top for the drum part. It's going to be nice. I don't know when to add it, but I'll just start at the beginning. A little metronome in the background, and let's have some fun. Let me make sure my mic can handle it. And so I don't blast your ears, let me silence my mic for a sec. Cool. Now we're going to do one more pass here up the top and hope they line up. But here's what it sounds like. Oh, that sounds so good. Nice. Let's do the top, where I'm going to face the other direction like this. Get us two different I forgot to turn my little scroll wheel on. There it is. Whoopsies. It's fine. I'll just pick it up right here. No biggie. Woohoo! Did it. And that, folks, is why you should have yourselves a percussion box, something that you just grab right beside you, and it's just there. You should always have a mic ready to go. These are just personal behavior things. Sorry if my volume was low there for a bit. Had to turn it down for the drum. But anyway, you can check it out here how I'm just going to merge these files together. Oops. There we go. All right. And then we're going to take a little merger dude like this. Oopsies. There we go. Cubase is a little more challenging than something like Pro Tools to merge things, but it's fine. No big deal. Let's go over here. What do you guys think so far? I'm a big fan of this. Let's do a couple of fade outs. Make sure we chop off the beginning parts. We're going to do a little bit of mixing here. That way we can get these mics to creep in if there's any noise. It doesn't just smack us in the face. Let's hear what these drums sound like together. I'm excited to hear it. Ah, cool. Whoops. Some of my click bled through my headphones, but it's nothing bad. Whoopsies. I wore the wrong headphones for that little recording sesh, but it's okay. I'm not going to redo it. It sounds fun. And you know what else the gamelan reminds me of is Spyro. Spyro the Dragon. There's a lot of gamelan used in that soundtrack, which is interesting because it's like poppy rock, but just a little bit of gamelan in there really gives that Indonesian flair. It's really cool. Cool. Hey, thanks, Jose. So next, I don't want to overwrite here today, but I want to give some kind of tribal drums or bigger drums that might feel more Native American here. So let's just call those tribal drums. See what we can come up with here. Probably Damage. I really don't want to go overboard here. But Damage has some good organic drums. ethnic drums is what they call them. And maybe we can grab this. Actually, they literally have one called tribal drums. So let's try that. Cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. Yes. So good percussion is always layered, especially if you're going to use MIDI. Use some kind of real instrument to help fill in that spectrum. And that was a good choice right there. I'm really happy with that. Now that one almost had like a boom, 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 like a swing to it. So probably a 16th notes, but with a swing, probably a 66% swing is the right direction there. Let's see how that feels when we quantize it. It's basically a 4 on the floor kick. What I'm actually going to do is just keep it, but I'm going to use the whatever this thing is called, the MIDI delay button over here to probably move it like 100 milliseconds or whatever it needs to feel right, because I did record it to the groove. Man, this is really feeling like a Spyro level now. I just played that trilogy. It was a lot of fun. This would not be complete without some finger cymbals. That feels appropriate here. They're Indonesian. Or Indian, I suppose. They're Eastern. So we take these little finger cymbals. Let's see what we can do. Let me mute myself and record. Cool, let's hear that. They're such a funny little instrument. Funny. Here's what it sounded like. Desperately needs some love. All right, let's start with an EQ. And then we'll put some reverb, some delicious reverb. So that stadium one again. It's a funny little addition there. Let's have the tambo. One more recording. Cool. That was a good recording there. I liked that. And I wasn't even expecting to get those little ka-ching, ching, ka-ching, like a little bit off the beat, but that's perfect for Native American music. And again, this is why I preach. This is why I preach so much about having a percussion box. It's inexpensive, but you can do so much cool stuff. So here it is in context. I'm going to just chill on this contra bass. But what I want to do here is, this is probably a good example of a time where I want to use some phrases just to see what's in there. So let me open up the Ventus phrases for the contrabass. Give that a second to load. What do you guys think so far? It's a fun little track. It's been a lot of fun. It's a style I don't do a lot. That's cool. Let's play around with that. And what I like about phrases is you can mix and match different portions of each. And let me match the levels in my mixer here so they're the same, but there's no weird moments. Cool. I like that a lot. So let me pop that in over here. Now, of course, that's in the wrong key. So what we can do is we can take this little fine tune knob or the transpose knob. And currently, I'm going to reach the piano behind me. So we just need to go up by 3 half steps. Transpose 3 plus. It should put us on place. Then you can click on this little speed button and it'll keep it in the tempo by only stretching the pitch, which is cool. So now. Whoa, that growl at the end. I think I might just end the track there. I like that a lot. But let's end it with a yomp. So here's a little tip for anyone that wants to use phrase-based libraries. Or if you ever have a moment like that where we want a little bit more control, this is where bouncing in place is really critical. So the first thing I got to do is turn off any of the effects that I have on that particular track, which is this one, the phrases one. And then let's get the volume back to 0. That way it's a perfect bounce. And then if you have anything on the master channel, I don't, you would want to turn it off as well so there's no effects bleeding in. Then we go back to our session here. Just take that one phrase, and then for me, I have a shortcut Shift R, which is bounce in place. Give it a second, and all it's doing is it's bouncing it out through the stereo out and then re-importing that wave file and putting it in the folder of the project. So Logic has this, Cubase has this. I wish others had it. I realized that was, I didn't hear it, but you got to hear that while I was trying to talk. What I was saying is I wish other DAWs had this. I know that Logic and Cubase have this function of bouncing in place. I don't know what else has it, but it's very valuable because now I can actually mute any of the MIDI and it's now just audio. Now I can actually see when that little growl is. So I'm going to call this the contrabass phrases, bounce in place, bip. And then I can go back over to my mixer and move over any of the effects to that one, maybe turn it down a little bit like we had originally. But now you can actually see where that little blip is. Isn't that cool? Oh, cool. Reaper has it, apparently. That's cool. Reaper has everything. But now I can actually add my own drum beat that lands right then. And I don't have to re-record anything. But you see that? I can like add an extra little stab. It's pretty cool. And now I know exactly when to put it. I can do the same thing with this guy. Just drag over any of my instruments that I was already using, create a duplicate of it, and put it right there on that attack. And that way, we have ourselves a nice little secondary attack. Okay, that's really cool. Track, and I'll put it to start just a hair before. And that's it, guys. I mean, just because we wrote that quickly does not make it any less valuable, right? So I don't feel the need to, let's spend another hour writing. But no, there's really no point. That was a full minute of music. It was exactly 1 minute, actually. So I'm very pleased with how that turned out. So there you go. There are the Ventus Native American flutes, the contrabass, the red tail hawk, and the third one, which I'm forgetting at the moment, but I bet you if I pull it up, I'll be able to see it over here. Oh, goodness gracious. I don't want to misspeak here. Yeah, so we have our three different... Does it even tell us what they are? I just think of them as the soprano, the alto, and the tenor. So yeah, I'm don't have it in front of me, but we have three different flutes there, and then of course the three phrase libraries with each, which are very useful, as we just saw how easy that was to kind of plop one in and bounce it in place. And then we have the gamelan, we have the full gamelan all together in one patch. We also have the solos of each of the contained instruments. So this has been a really fun process. I'd love to hear from you in the live chat or in the comments what would be a cool title for this track. And I'll make sure that I post the final bounce of this on SoundCloud, and I'll link it in the description below for anyone watching this after the live. And as mentioned before, make sure that if you're going to grab this, take advantage of the 15% discount. Use the code SMELLIN15, that's SMELIN 15 at checkout. You can get both these libraries 15% off, which is pretty cool. I think you'll enjoy that in your arsenal. I know it's going to be a lot of fun to add this into some of my music. And a quick note, well, first of all, I also have to mention that those are affiliate links, and there's a link in the description below that support my business at no additional cost to you. So I really appreciate it. If you're going to pick this up, go through my links below. It supports me, and I appreciate it. But I want to say that I hope that today proves a point that it's really cool to have new libraries, but it's really important to be selective and limit yourself. Any chance you can to combine real instruments, real recordings with a microphone, even if they're not the best in the world, like a dudebek, right? Or my little finger cymbals, it's real, and it has that human error, and it kind of has that I don't know, that authenticity behind it. When you combine that with really cool sample libraries and put them together, you can create some really polished stuff that doesn't take a lot of time, and it doesn't take a lot of really know-how or technology. I mean, it's pretty simple. Half of this track is me just recording percussion in my studio, you know? And combined, all of those instruments together is probably no more than like 30 or 40 bucks, you know? The price of one of these instruments, just about. So I highly encourage you to try to weigh the balance between both worlds of having real things in your studio and sample libraries, because they're both valuable, and it's important to try to mix them the best you can. So I hope this has been valuable for you guys. Hope you enjoyed this final playthrough of the track. And I'm going to see you guys next week for another live composing show every Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube. Appreciate you guys. You have a good one. Let's play out with the final track. Take care.